Welcome to the podcast designed to fuel your success in selling technology solutions. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus, and this is Next Level Biz Tech. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're bringing back a topic here: business blueprints, lessons from leaders. And as you can see here, we've got one in the office with us today in the studio, Mr. Patrick Oborn, co-founder of Telarus. Welcome back, PKO.
Hey, it's good to be back, man. Excited.
We got some good stuff. You have not had an idle summer. You've been pretty busy lately, so there's a lot of parallels here. There's a lot of lessons learned. There's a lot of cool stuff that you've done, and I want our partners to hear about it. So today we're going to talk about some of this crazy running stuff that you've been doing, and everything that kind of goes into that. So. You were back on episode 67. You talked a lot of cool stuff about your backstory for anybody that doesn't know you, that's been living under a rock all these years. There's a lot of good stuff on there, some things you surprised us with. So go back to episode 67 if you haven't heard that. But let's jump in. You ran a 250-mile race. So we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about that here. So first of all, though, for those that don't know, what is this Cocodona 250? What's the significance, and why were the 1,300-mile races you did not enough?
That is a great question, Josh. So let me just backtrack a little bit and kind of pick up where episode 67 left off. So I had been running some other races and some other events. Some of the races are static, point-to-point races. There's another race called Sudden Death December, which is a race where you run a certain mileage every day. And if you can survive that, then the mileage the next day goes up and up and up and up until one person's left. So it's a last man standing. It could last months, and if the two people just refuse to give in. So all of those were happening in the background since episode 67. And one of the things that I work on in my life is constant improvement, because we're either getting better or we're getting worse. There's no status quo. There's no coasting. You're going to get better, going to get worse. And so, both in business and in life, you want to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm better than I was yesterday. Or you look and go, I think I'm softer than I was yesterday. Like, let's be honest, right? Because you can be honest, or you can fake it through life. You can fool a lot of people, but you can't fool the guy in the mirror. And I don't know, I'm just really sensitive with the mirror. I look at I look at that Patrick that I see, and I'm just, what kind of guy are you? What kind of a business leader are you? What kind of a dad are you? What kind of an athlete are you? You're either getting better or getting worse in all aspects. And so when some people see the running that I do, they might have a tendency to think that I'm unidimensional in life. That's all I think about is running to the detriment of the other things. And that's false. Like, I use running as a way to get better so that I can fuel my fire to get better as a dad, to get better as a husband, to get better as a business partner, business leader, everything else. Because I want all of those things to go up in parallel with each other, in tandem. Like, it's not a one or the other. It's not mutually exclusive. And it shouldn't be for our listeners either. Like, you shouldn't just focus on, I want to be a good runner, and then let your business go to pot, because that's not what you're here for. And so every year I have a really cool, internal meeting where we I'm speaking in like the English, we set goals. And so we go, what's our athletic goal? What's our business goal? And all of my business goals basically align with Telarus, like launching new products and bringing new things to partners, being a dad, it's time spent with kids, camps, vacations, just soccer games, all that stuff, and being there for them, spouse, date nights, like all that stuff. But putting some of that aside just for the sake of conversation and just focusing on the running aspect, as the years go on, I want to make sure that I'm getting better, right? I don't want the apex to happen. It's going to happen eventually, because you can't get better forever. But every year I want to say, at least it's not this year. I don't know when that year is going to be, but it's not now. And so in the last 6 months, several really cool things have happened. We did the episode, right? Right after that episode, I've had a goal to run a marathon faster than 3 hours. I've been like 3:06, 3:07.
I know that doesn't eat at you at all.
3:11. I've been right on the cusp. And so a friend of mine suggested I go run the Big Bear Marathon in Southern California. Not the Bear 100, the Big Bear Marathon. Everyone in Southern California knows where Big Bear Lake is. It's a fantastic mountain resort. Anyhow, they bus you to near the top of the mountain and you run down for 26 miles. It's barely Boston qualifier legal, but it is. So I went and I ran that race, and I ran a 2:55,
Ooh.
and that was November of 23. So that was, just a few months ago. So check that box. I got a faster marathon at age 51 than I ever had in my 30s or 40s. So
Nice.
so very, very fun. Then right after that started the Sudden Death December competition, where we go bigger and bigger and bigger. And by January 1st, there was 2 people left, me and one of my best friends named Michael Greer. And Michael Greer was 3rd place at this race called the Cocodona 250 last year, and 1st place at the Zion 100 the year before. So he's well known in the running community, and he's just a fantastic guy. And we approached this competition very differently. He had a 9 to 5 job, and so he had to be in his seat at 9 a.m. every day. So as the miles got bigger and bigger, he just kept dialing back his alarm clock earlier and earlier to give himself more time to run. Where I was more pragmatic, where I would run half of it in the morning, do some conference calls, walk some of it. Like, he just got up and ran it. And so it was interesting that just the pure runner versus the more pragmatic, gonna walk some, run some. And in the end of the day, and with a little luck, like, I won. And it's funny because he, hands down, is a better runner than me. Like, he's a better athlete than me. He's younger than me. But at the end of the day, he was running so many miles so fast, he started developing injuries. He pulled his hamstring, his glute. He started actually having physical problems, where I was just out there. It was literally the story of the tortoise and the hare. And so I gained confidence because that was my 2nd win in a row. And the previous year, I beat another young man in St. George who was literally half my age, less than half my age, right? And like, so I know that I can do things because of my mental capabilities, right? Not my physical capabilities, but my ability to set my sight on a goal and focus on it like no other. So after all these things, and I learned about the Cocodona 250 kind of from Michael Greer. Also, I had a friend of mine that ran the Cocodona 250 last year and invited me to pace him the last 40 miles.
I love that. The last 40 miles.
And
Like,
I know
it's no
that
big deal.
sounds crazy, and it sounded crazy to me. What was even crazier is after Channel Partners in Las Vegas, literally the Channel Partners got over on Thursday. Thursday afternoon, I drove down south. Instead of driving back to Utah, I drove south to Arizona to the area around Flagstaff, and then I crewed him, and then I paced him the last 40 miles of Cocodona. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, all of these people you see coming through here just gritting it out, they've already done twice as much as I've ever done, ever. And I saw housewives, I saw janitors, I saw everything. And I was like, the dedication and drive these people have is next level. And I kind of secretly wanted to be like them. I'm like, I want to join this exclusive club because I saw people doing it. And I saw my friend Bart finish the last 40 miles. And I was with him when he crossed the finish line. And the most poignant part of that experience was the last 3 miles. We were coming into Flagstaff. It was an easy run by that time. Everything was flat. Everything was easy. And I said, Bart Lee, oh my gosh, you are about to finish the Cocodona 250. What's going through your mind right now? I go, why did you even try to do this in the first place? And he said, you know what? I always teach my kids to do hard things. And I teach my kids, you don't know if it's hard enough if you don't have a sense of fear, if you're not scared. If you're not scared, it's inside your comfort zone. It's at the edge of your comfort zone.
You don't grow.
But it's not beyond your comfort zone. He's like, so I had to do something to show them I could do something scary. And 250-mile race, Cocodona 250, it's from Phoenix to Flagstaff, over the mountains. It's not next to the highway, right? It was created in 2019, and then I don't think they ran it in 2020. So there's only been 5 of them total. It's a pretty new race. And 100s were kind of the thing 10 years ago, and then 200s are now kind of the thing. The Tahoe 200, the Moab 240, the Bigfoot 200. Like, there's these 200s that are kind of becoming these pretty popular races. So the Cocodona 250 is just, it's on the outer edge. It's on the top of all of them. And to make things a little harder, it's in Arizona in May. It's not in Arizona in February.
Yeah.
It's in Arizona in May.
It's warm there.
So it gets to be a little toasty. So something very hard. And so thinking about what Bart said, like, I needed to do something hard, something that scared me, so I could set an example for my kids. And so I started thinking, Patrick, have you done something that's hard, right? like doing work on the QSAs, doing speaking engagements, starting a business. Those are all hard things. Running 100-mile races, it's hard, but is it scary? Does it keep me up at night? Am I scared? Answer's no. No, it's hard, but when you've done something, you know you can do it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you've already done it.
Yeah.
You just wake up, rinse, repeat. I know I'm gonna have a hard day. I'm gonna come home and be tired, but I know I can get through it, and I know I can accomplish it. And so as we go through life, we stack up these experiences and these little accomplishments to the point where we have a lot of confidence in our abilities, right? I mean, you should be confident. You've seen deals, you've seen, your management skills with your employees have gotten better. Your bedside manner and your approach in front of customers, your customer approach has gotten better. Everything's improved, right?
Yeah.
So now you could go into a deal feeling 100% confident. Why? Because you've put in the work and you've had those successes, and now your experience has made you into this confident person. And so the same thing, I was confident, but as you go to each partner summit, you tend to spot similarities in our guest speakers, right? Who have been our guest speakers? Like James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, Captain Ron Fry. You have Kobe Bryant's personal trainer. You have all these people, and what's the common thread that all of them teach us? It's all about being intentionally uncomfortable and pushing beyond your comfort zone. Like the comfort zone is like the enemy to all things progressive in our life, all things that help us improve. And so, just looking at my goals for the next year, I'm like, I think I want to do the Cocodona 250. So one day I was talking to my massage therapist, who is a trail runner, and her husband, they go around the country doing trail runs. He runs it and she crews it. And she, like, there's literally not a couple in this area that probably knows more about ultra running, the needs of your body, all that stuff than this couple. And so she asked me, hey, what's on the 2024 calendar? And I said, I go, you might laugh. This is really hard, but I think I might do Cocodona 250. Because again, it was audaciously out there.
Yeah.
It was beyond hard. I'd only done 100, and I understand that 250 is 2.5x further than I've ever gone. So do I know I can do it? No. Do I know I can do 100? Yes. Do I know? 250? It's unknown. I don't know. So I told her, I'm thinking about doing Cocodona 250. The next week, she calls me on the phone and she says, listen, Marty and I had a conversation. If you want to do the Cocodona 250 and can show me documentation that you've been accepted into that race, not just big talker, you've been accepted into that race, Marty and I will crew you for the whole week. Because you have to understand, you're not finding volunteers for a day.
Yeah.
They have to, it's a whole week of PTO. It's Sunday to Sunday. So you really get to test the resolve and the commitment of your friends. Because it's like, especially the crew chief. The crew chief is the nucleus of the help. So they let me know that they would crew me. And quite frankly, that itself pushed me over the edge to register for the race. Because now I know if I can figure out my part, I will have the help that I need. So that pushed me over the edge. I registered for the race. That about 10 minutes after the conversation, I sent her a screenshot of my registration accepted form. And from November 10th of last year until May, I knew for 6 months that I had Cocodona 250 in my future.
I love it. Love it. Surround yourself with good people, challenge yourself, and do hard things. Because if you don't have fear, I think to your point, you're not going to grow, right? And if you're not going to grow, you're just going to decline. If you're not growing, you're declining. So I love that. Good stuff. So walk us through, for those of us that are not, avid runners. I've 5K, as farthest I've ever done, right?
Hey, that's great.
And that was hard.
Right.
So just real quick, walk us through just a difference of training between, a 5K and going, all right, I want to get to 100. Let's just get to 100 first. What's the difference there?
The main difference is the physiological strains you're going to put on your body. When you're doing a 5K, you can ignore a lot of things. You can ignore hydration. You can ignore electrolytes because the race is over. We're so fast that you can basically live off of your glycogen stores. Like your body, when you wake up in the morning, your glycogen stores are pretty full. You have salts, you have sugars, you have hydration, all in kind of consider them like these short-term containers. But once you go over about an hour, those are now gone. And so you have to now learn how to fuel your body. So in a marathon, it's going to be longer than an hour. So those people fuel, like they take things, electrolytes and hydration to make sure they can fuel through it. Because if your body doesn't have enough hydration, your kidneys are going to shut down. If you don't have enough electrolytes and salts, your muscles will cramp up. If you don't have enough food and calories, you're going to run out of calories, and you're just going to basically, your battery's going to die, and you're just going to like fall by the wayside. So there's a lot of things that go into play as you get longer distances. And so as I went from, marathon to 50K to 100K, 100K to 100 miles, like I had to learn how to feed myself basically in a way that wouldn't make my stomach revolt, because you see a lot of people puking, because all of these things, they require your stomach, and your stomach is a really hard organ to wrap your mind around, because if you want to run hard, your body wants the blood in your muscles, but you need to eat, and in order to metabolize calories, your stomach needs blood. And so there's this tug of war on your blood supply between your muscles and your stomach, and you have to get the balance right, because if your stomach wins, then your muscles are going to cramp up and stop working. If your muscles win, your stomach's not going to have enough blood. You're going to get nauseous, puke up all your calories, and your height, like everything's going to go wacko. So it took me a long time to learn the balance of those things to get up to 100, and it wasn't instantly. In fact, even after 700s, I still hired a coach who taught me how to drink my way through a race, drink my calories. Why? Because fiber doesn't give you energy. Fiber just requires blood, and the blood needs. So it was this huge process to get to 100 miles. But once I learned the system, I got faster and faster. So now I can run the Bear 100 and several other hundreds under 24 hours. And it took 5+ years to get to that point. But then you introduce the 250. And now we have new things to take.
Yeah, walk us. Okay, so we made it to 100.
Yes.
You're knocking out the hundreds. You're like, shoot, I got this. I'm good. I got a trainer. All right, now go to 250. It's 2.5, right, on some paper? 2.5. How bad can it be?
It's 2.5 times the absolute longest you've ever run, which for most people is still insanely long, right?
Yeah.
So now you introduce some new elements. Now you introduce protein, because you're going so long. Like in 100, I never eat protein. I just eat, carbs and just some simple sugars, just simple stuff to just keep the muscles firing. But for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, now you're looking, instead of a 1-day event, you're looking at a multi 3, 4, 5-day event. So the Cocodona 250 has a 5-day cut. So you just have to finish in under 5 days. So you can walk some of it, stuff. I mean, really the thing is to keep moving. However, you're going to need protein. Second thing is you're going to need sleep. Like I've never done a race where I had to sleep, not even 10 minutes. Like there's no rest. So now it's like, I can't go 4 days with no sleep. Like, where do I sleep? How long do I sleep? How is this going to work? Like huge unknown. And then the last thing is eating food. Like I can't take gels and goos and sip on orange juice. Like I got to eat a quesadilla. I got to eat a burrito. You got to eat real food for something that long. And so I had to figure out how to run tired. I had to figure out, so I'd go on training runs, and I'd purposely go by fast food restaurants and eat a quesadilla in the middle of my run to see if I can eat it without puking, right? So it's like I had to train my stomach how to do things. I had to learn to run tired. In fact, during the Sudden Death December event, I had so many miles, and during the winter here in Utah, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
The sun doesn't come up for a while. So a lot of my miles were in the dark. So I would get to the point where I'd be on a straightaway, and I could kind of close my eyes, and I could kind of run asleep. So I taught myself the sleep run. Kind of sounds weird.
Wait. Hold on.
I knew that.
Hold on. You taught yourself to sleep run. Now, like, I'm impressed with your ability to multitask, but
to shut it down, close your eyes, keep your stride the same. Now, there's a caveat. If there's any tiny pebble in the path, you will kick it and you will fall. Like, so you have to make absolutely sure of a few things. You have to make sure you're on a flat surface. There's no rocks. There's no nothing. But it's you close one eye completely. The other eye's like 90% closed. So you can see the tiny little bit, but it relaxes your mind, and it helps the miles just go away. Mm-hmm. Like you're like, clunk, 1 mile, clunk, 2 miles. You're like, I don't remember any of that. So
you're kind of slowing your brain down. You're putting it on autopilot a little bit.
It's the autopilot. It's the exact. That's a perfect word.
Okay. So you're cooking. You're figuring out how to get through miles quicker, right? Now what? Now how do we make it to 250?
So yeah, so just like with 100, people say, how do you run 100 miles? And if you look at a race plan, I will show you, I have it broken up into 13 stages. And every one of the stages has the start time, end time. It has the time of day, the estimated temperature, so I know what clothing layers to have on, to know because as the temperature fluctuates, your 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 gallons per hour of fluid change. If it's cold, your fluid can kind of slow down and it's okay. If it's hot, your fluid has to increase dramatically. You have to increase the electrolytes according to temperature. So there's this plan. So my plan just goes from here.
Yeah.
It goes from 13 steps to literally like 30 steps.
Yeah.
But again, like everything in life, if you slice things up into small enough achievable objectives, you can get through it. It was just doing enough scouting work, talking to other people who had run the race, and trying to figure out what those 30 mini steps look like.
Yeah, there's interesting parallels here that I'm thinking of, right? You brought up a point of in the beginning when we started out doing complex deals back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Working with partners. None of us knew how to do big deals because we just hadn't done them yet, right?
Yep.
A couple $1,000 was a gigantic deal. That was crazy. But I think to your point, we didn't do those big deals because maybe they weren't here yet. And then as those presented themselves as providers enabled us to sell great technologies that allowed to do some of these large deals, we all got confidence in that. And we knew what it took. We knew the sales cycle changed. We knew there was multiple decision makers to keep tabs with and keep influence on. We knew there was also the bigger the deal, the more things that can go wrong. And so I think to your point, I hope everybody's drawing parallels from this as we go as I work through bigger and harder things, there's different things that I just haven't seen yet that I might need some help on, right? You had to lean on help. You had to lean on that crew chief. You had to lean on, we're going to get to the crew stuff here in just a second, but there's ways that people helped you get to where you hadn't been yet. And then once you got there, you go, okay, I learned a lot from there. And maybe, the next thing I do, I'm going to need a different crew or a different area that I'm going to run in that I haven't, maybe different weather, whatever, right? There's a lot to learn from that. So interesting parallels here as we get ready for that, as we go to do bigger and bigger things, right? At the end of the day, just like our partners, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, they all put their pants on one leg at a time, right? So everybody should know from this and what they're gathering so far is that anybody can do anything they want, right? To your point, I love the parallels here so far, the examples that you're setting that do hard things. It's such a good track. So
I look at it in the sense of our advisors getting into different swim lanes of technology. I mean, it's literally the same. I mean, going from 100 to 250, that's a new swim lane. That takes discipline and characteristics and traits that do not exist in the 100-mile world. You just don't need to worry about eating food like that. You don't need to worry about sleep. You don't need to worry about half of those things. They're not part of the program. Now we're in it's almost a different sport. I mean, the speed at which people run, the aid stations, like a 20-minute aid station is no problem. An aid station for 20 minutes and 100 is a freaking waste of time. Like, you want to be out in 2 minutes. But 20 minutes is kind of, and you see the people, and I was one of them that applied a 100-mile strategy to the 250. And after 80 miles, like, I was almost broken because I was doing my 100-mile stuff, and it broke me. I'm like, I need a different way to do it. I need to rest. I need to eat food. I need to approach it in a lot of different ways, differently. And when you go from, network to security, from security to AI, you go from AI to contact center AI, you go into UCAS, you go into mobility, all of those things. They're the same, but they're different. There's differences, just like there's differences between 100 and 250. But you have to know that if you can do one well, you should have a lot of confidence in yourself that you can probably do the next one well as well, because it's a business of relationships. Not necessarily a business of technology knowledge, which is lucky for us, right? Because we have you guys. But I knew I could do the basics right. I just needed more knowledge and experience. And so I would run with food to see if I would puke. I would run in the middle of the night to see if I could handle tired running, right? I tried to simulate everything. In fact, when we were in President's Club in Cancun, Mexico, like I went running at noon, from noon to 2. Not only because it was some of our free time, right? But I wanted to run in the hottest part of the day because I didn't want Arizona to be the first time I felt that heat.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to experience at least part of what I was going to experience before it was real. So it's kind of the same thing in our world with the QSA. You can go through and see what the questions look like. and imagine what the answers might be like. Like, you shouldn't ever really need to go into a new swim lane where you haven't at least practiced and simulated what those things are going to look like, because you're going to need help, but you also need to prepare. And preparation was everything. So even though I hadn't done Cocodona, I had never done a 250. I had never even run a race in Arizona. All of my races have been in Utah and other states, but never Arizona. So there was a lot of firsts for this thing, but nothing I really experienced was novel, and that was important.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, I want to. There's some cool stuff I think that we've learned through this about crew and team, and we're going to get to that. But as you tested the waters with these new hard things, or these new different duration of things, or this new food program, and maybe it was scary where you go, my gosh, I don't know how my body's going to react to this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. How many times did you find that once you got through that hard, scary new thing that you go, oh, well, that wasn't as bad as I maybe made it to be in my head? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah. There was a few times in the race where I got to some new things. One of the things was, this race has an insane amount of distance in between aid stations. In the hundreds, I used to think, because let's go back. In the Ironmans that I used to do, when you get to the run port, you have an aid station every mile. Literally every mile they give you stuff. And then I went to the ultras, and it's like every 7 or 8 miles. I'm like, whoa, that's like 7 times further. So I kind of had some apprehension. I'm going to have to carry some stuff, be self-sufficient. But then I got to the 250. Now we're talking, one stretch was 17 miles. So you have no help, no nothing for 17 miles. What does that mean? It means you got to carry a crap ton of water. So I've only had a 1 or 2 water bottles. Now I literally had to buy a whole new hydration pack so I could hold at least 2.5 to 3 liters. There was a time in the race where I put my full pack on with the full all bladders. I literally felt like a human water balloon. Like, it was so much water. So guess what? To prepare for this race, I put like a 20-pound rucksack on. Yeah, like that I used to use for like Murph in CrossFit, and I would go do my walk in the mountains and stuff with a 20-pound pack on. Why? Because in the race, I'm going to have 3 liters of water. Like, Google what 3 liters of water weighs for 17 miles. And so it was crazy. And even during the race, like, there was one portion, it wasn't enough. Like, I ran out. It's like, oh no, what do we do? We'll get to that in a minute. But going through those long stretches, it was hard to prepare for.
But when you go through, when you made it through those seemingly little things, I mean, seemingly huge things, right? Did they seem little kind of after you've gone through it? You're like, okay, cool, on to the next thing? Or, how does the scariness of what that might have been diminish a little bit as you get through and kind of give you that confidence for, all right, time for the next leg?
I don't think the scariness goes away, but my confidence and my abilities to handle the scary things increases, right? Like, I've done it. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. Just because I've done it doesn't make it easier the next time. It just means you kind of know how to approach it, and you can get to the finish line. In fact, during this event, I was actually getting texts from James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, who was our keynote speaker. We've become friends kind of since then. And one day I just picked up the phone and called him. I'm like, I'm really scared, man. Like, I don't know how you were like the day before you started your Conquer 100, but I need to know what my mind should be thinking right now. And he goes, dude, you've done it already. He's like, you shouldn't be scared at all. You've done it. You've done 100 milers. Like, you should not. It's farther, it's harder, but like, I've done an Ironman distance triathlon. Now I just need to do 100 of them. And he goes, and after I got to 10, he goes, getting to 11 was easier because I'd already done 10. He's like, literally, you get up and you go and you jump in the pool and you just start, because you can finish. You can do it. And so when we ran in Cancun, I did a 17-mile loop, trying to carry everything without getting any help from any gas stations or gas and goes, right? So you simulate those things and you do your best to prepare yourself both physically and mentally. But even still, Josh, after all of that training that I did, the night before the race, I still was like, I don't know if I've done enough. I don't know if I've run enough miles. Like, I just don't know if I'm going to this race with enough money in the bank account. I might go bankrupt. I might run out of money, so to speak, in terms of training capability and everything else. Because the interesting thing about Cocodona, which was also novel, it's 250 miles, but what most people don't know is the crew, everything that helps you, they're really not able to help you for the first 80 miles. So the first 80 miles is you solo. That's almost 100, right?
Yeah.
Where people are helping you from mile 30 to mile 100. Now you
It's
got to go to
different
mile
to get used to.
80.
Yeah.
So there's really two distinct paths. There's your prep, because you have to get yourself to mile 80. And then your crew has to be on task, because usually if you can get to 80 by yourself, you're probably not going to be in the best condition. You're probably going to be a train wreck, honestly, by that point. And now they're going to have to take a broken person and get them another 200 or 170 miles to the finish. So
let's jump into that then. I want to talk about the crew, right? Because you talked about like the only crew that I had when I got to the 5K was, okay, can I drive there and can I drive home, right? That the car was the crew. So this is vastly different, right? Much more accomplishments here. So how much of the successful finish of this goal would you say you attribute to the prep, versus kind of the actual event? And tell us about what it's like building this 10-person crew as opposed to these smaller crews of before.
Yeah. So, back to my race plan, there's 30 segments. 80 miles of those segments are me, myself. And then the rest of them, I have crew. So what does crew do? Well, for the most part, a 250 mile boils down to two really important things: taking care of your feet and taking care of your undercarriage. We'll just say that, right? Because in 4 days, you're going to go a lot.
Yeah.
And this might sound weird, if you have one bad wipe and leave some stuff there, it's going to chafe and your race will be over. This will end your race. Like, if you can't walk, you can't finish. If your blisters heat up, you can't finish. So you got to take care of your feet. You got to take care of your everything else. So your crew is critical in that, because every single crewed aid station, I had planned on getting a fresh, dry pair of socks, new lubricant in between the toes, and a fresh pair of shoes. So they're kind of like your Formula One. Every time a Formula One car comes in, 4 new tires, and away you go. So I need new tires every stop, because you have to keep the moisture away from your feet, which means dry socks, dry shoes. Even your shoes that you've been wearing start to accumulate sweat and other things. You got to get rid of all of it in order to have a chance. And so I want to take really good care of my feet. So I needed people that understood that. I also need people who understood basic human nutrition and what your body goes through in extreme circumstances, because this isn't ordinary nutrition. And so Marty and Jen were the optimal deal. Like last year, Marty ran a race called Crazy Mountain. And Crazy Mountain is a race they run up in Montana, in a very remote part of Montana. So if you're having issues, your crew has to be the one to fix them, or else you're done. Yeah. So there's a high degree of reliance on your crew for that race, and Jen knows exactly what to feed them, everything else. Also, I need a crew who's good at communication. Like, it's almost like a 5-minute doctor visit. Tell me what your symptoms are, tell me what you're feeling, and automatically know how to fix. And so you need someone like that. Second, your pacers, the people that actually run with you. You need people who are strong, ultra endurance athletes in their own right. They got to be able to go 30 to 40 miles. That's kind of the average stint that they would need to run. They would need to be super strong. They would need to carry their own stuff, plus a little extra food for me in case I ran out, plus a lot of extra stuff, because I would be relying on their everything. Like they wouldn't need to just talk to me and tell me stories. They would need to also communicate with me. Let's figure out a plan. Oh, you have to go to the bathroom. What's the best plan? Do we wait till the next stop, or do we find a place in the forest? And again, it kind of sounds weird, but over a 4-day period, that becomes a huge factor in the race. And hydration, being able to focus on me, because by the time I get to 100, 150 miles, my ability to self-police goes down. Like, I know I need to take an electrolyte every hour, but man, by that time I'm so tired, I might go 2 hours or 3 hours and forget, right? By that time, I may be eating 140 calories every 30 minutes, but maybe the last 30 minutes I only ate 10 calories because I forgot. So it's basically saying, hey, there's going to be this zombie Patrick, and I need to know you can take care of that guy, because he's not going to be able to do it. And so having experienced people who understand that, who can handle their own plus handle your stuff. So they have to multitask. They have to take care of 2 people at once, because they got to take care of themselves, because they got to make it. But they also have to be really watching me, watching what I'm drinking, watching what I'm eating, not just sitting there worrying about themselves and Patrick, he knows what he's doing. Like, no, like they have to be so focused on both of those things. So finding 6 runners that can do that, plus another 2 crew. And then we had a bonus part of the crew, which was the housing and cooking part. So the way the crew started to assemble was Jen and Marty were first. They were the nucleus. Then that was November. Early December, I start going to Telarus holiday parties. And I went to a holiday party in Phoenix, which was a fantastic party. It was on a rooftop. Had a lot of great time celebrating another awesome year down with our partners in Phoenix and Arizona in general. And Adam Burke, the head of Quest Technologies, who you guys do a lot of work with, a lot of weird MSP deals end up on their plate, weird licensing deals. They're kind of the Swiss Army knife. So we do a lot of work with them, and they're just great people to work with. He came up to me, and together we paced Brandon from Evoke Technologies on his first Leadville 100. And so we had a lot. I know he's a strong runner. I've seen him in the wild. I've seen what he can do. So anyhow, he asked me, "Hey, when's the next big race?" He goes, "Because I'm training. So I'm gonna do 100 next year. My first 100." I'm like, "Adam, that's fantastic." I said, "Honestly, my next race is here in Arizona. It's the Cocodona 250." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you want to be a pacer, part of the group?" And he's like, "Dude, I would love to." And I was like, "Sweet." So Adam Burke, sign him up. 5 minutes later, I'm talking to Brian Perdue, his national sales manager at the same party, because he's also from the Phoenix area. And he said, "Hey, what's your next race?" I said, "Funny you should mention it. It's Cocodona 250, and Adam's pacing me." And he's like, "Well, what's your plan?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna rent an RV, and we're gonna have the crew kind of set up in that and stuff." He goes, "No, don't rent an RV." He goes, "I have an RV." He goes, "You can use it. Seriously, I'll come, I'll help." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm in." He goes, "Me and Kobe, my son, we're both in." And I'm like, "Okay, that'll be awesome." So Brian was there at the certain different aid stations with his RV. And Kobe was there, and Brian, I don't know if many people know this, but he's like a quick order chef. Like he's a legit chef. Like you want Wagyu steak, you want whatever you want, he will cook it up, and it will. I mean, it's good stuff. Yeah. So now we have an RV, we have an RV driver, we have an RV chef and assistant, we have crew, and so then I just went through my Rolodex of pacers and added a just outstanding crew. All of them had completed 100-mile races, all of them, but most importantly, all of them had a can-do, let's figure this out mentality. Because when you're doing ultras, especially with friends, you're going to see people and their outside, right? Their physiology, their body is going to be telling you, "I want to quit." But you can't let them quit. And it's hard to do that, because when you see a friend in pain, as a friend, you want to take the pain away. You don't want to just say, "Just keep enduring the pain, man. Just." Yeah. And so you need to be working with people who already know that, who already know you're going to be in pain. But that person, that zombie Patrick, that whoever, like you need to help him along, because Patrick does not want to quit. Even though his body wants to quit, you cannot let that happen. You have to be a problem solver, and you have to be positive and upbeat, and you basically have to give your physical energy and your mental energy to him. And so I need to find people that could give instead of just take or just maintain their own stuff, and they couldn't let me alone. And so it's basically entrusting your baby, which is your future zombie self, into people's hands that you absolutely trust. And once I got all those lined up, maybe a month or so before the race, like I knew that at that point I had to focus on doing my part. Like I had to go in physically fit. I had to go in knowing the course. I had to go in knowing how to use a GPX file on my phone to navigate, because not all of the course is marked. So now you have navigation, you have all these things. And so the pacer's primary job is navigation. I'm like, "Look, I will navigate my first 80 miles, but after that, I just want to follow you and know I'm on course. I don't want to waste any miles going down some rabbit hole and then having to redo them and everything else. I want you to tell me when to eat. I want you to tell me everything. Like, I just want to fly the plane in autopilot almost after that. And just taking away all the decision-making things by the 150-mile mark, my brain was toast. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. We came into a town of Jerome, Arizona. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jerome, Arizona, but it's this old mining town, and it's literally built into the cliff of a mountain. So the city is up on a mountain. It's in a cliff. It's old. It's like rustic. Like it's got the Back to the Future Marty McFly part 2 where they're in the Western.
Yeah.
It's literally like you go back in a time machine, and they have old shops. They have Christmas shops, and it's literally like it's like just from the old West.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going through that town, and I was looking in the shops, and I swear people were like looking at me with old hats. Like in every single shop, every single house, people would turn and look at me. And so I went to Scott, who was my pacer at the time. I'm like, Scott, do you see all these people? He's like, dude, it's 2:30 in the morning. There's no one here. I'm like, no, there are people looking at us. And come to find out a little later that there's lots of stories about Jerome being haunted. And I'm like, well, that's cool, because I saw every former resident of that thing. I literally saw them, and I could pass a polygraph. Like I saw them. And so your brain starts to wander. So you need people who can take care of you in that mental state.
Wow. We got a lot of good stuff coming. We're going to talk about dilemmas. We're going to talk about scary stuff the night before, but I think this is a good spot to pause. This is going to wrap us up. We're going to actually break this into a 2-part series. We've got so much more good stuff to cover.
Awesome.
Thank you for hanging with us so far. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back, and we're going to cover part 2, and you're going to see how this all ends. Hang in, everybody.